The warning lights flashed red across the mercenary ship's bridge. Captain Zexthor studied the data on his screen with growing confidence. His crew of 40 Vrelki warriors had taken harder contracts than this one. The target was simple, a small human mining station on the edge of explored space. Intelligence said there were only 12 defenders. This would be easy money. Zexthor had heard stories about humans, of course. Every mercenary in the galaxy had heard something. Tales of soldiers who never gave up, who fought with a fury that seemed unnatural. But Zexthor dismissed these stories as propaganda. Every species told tales about their warriors. The reality was always less impressive. His ship docked at the station's main airlock. The Vrelki warriors moved through the corridors with weapons ready. They expected resistance. What they found instead was a single human standing in the main hallway, arms crossed, looking almost bored. Lieutenant Jake Morrison watched the aliens pour into his station. He counted them quickly. 40 fighters, well armed, wearing combat armor that probably cost more than his annual salary. They moved with the confidence of professionals who had done this many times before. Jake almost felt sorry for them. "You should leave now," Jake said through his helmet's translator. His voice was calm, like he was suggesting they try a different restaurant. Zexthor's mandibles clicked in laughter. "Surrender, human. We outnumber you 4-1. This doesn't have to end badly for you." Jake smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You're not outnumbering us. You're trapped in here with us. Big difference." Before Zexthor could respond, the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Then the shooting started, but not from where the mercenaries expected. Humans emerged from ventilation shafts, from ceiling panels, from maintenance corridors too small for the larger Vrelki to navigate. Sergeant Kyle Hayes led his team through the station's infrastructure like water flowing through cracks. He and his soldiers had spent the last 3 hours preparing for this moment. They knew every inch of the station. They knew where the mercenaries would go, where they would take cover, how they would react. The Vrelki were professionals, but they were fighting on the humans' home ground. Corporal Lisa Grant was already at the mercenary ship, working on their communication systems. She had trained for 6 years in electronic warfare. The Vrelki systems, advanced as they were, followed predictable patterns. Within 2 minutes, she had isolated their command frequencies. Within 5, she had shut them down completely. The mercenaries were deaf and blind to each other. The fighting was brutal and fast. The Vrelki fired energy weapons that could punch through starship hulls. The bolts struck human armor with tremendous force. Several humans went down. But then something happened that made the mercenaries pause in confusion. The fallen humans got back up. Private Danny Cole took a direct hit to his chest plate. The energy bolt knocked him backward into a wall. The impact would have killed most species, shattering bones and rupturing organs. Danny lay there for 3 seconds, his vision blurred, his chest feeling like someone had hit him with a sledgehammer. Then he pushed himself up, checked his weapon, and kept fighting. The Vrelki had evolved on a world with gentle gravity and mild weather. Their bones were lighter than human bones. Their muscles had never needed to fight the constant pull of heavy gravity. A hit that would stagger a human could break a Vrelki in half. A hit that would break a human would kill a Vrelki outright. The mercenaries suddenly realized they were fighting a species built differently than anything they had encountered before. Zexthor tried to rally his troops, but without communications, his orders didn't reach them. He watched his carefully planned assault fall apart. The humans moved through the chaos with terrible efficiency. They didn't panic. They didn't hesitate. They fought like machines, but machines that understood fear and used it as a weapon. Jake Morrison walked through the firefight like he was taking a stroll through a park. Bolts flashed past him. He ducked when he needed to, took cover when it made sense, but he never stopped advancing. His team moved with him, a unit so well trained they barely needed to communicate. They had fought together for 3 years. They knew each other's moves by instinct. The battle lasted 7 minutes from start to finish. When the shooting stopped, 32 mercenaries were unconscious or too injured to continue. 5 were dead from wounds that had proven fatal despite the humans trying to keep casualties minimal. The rest had retreated to their ship, dragging wounded with them. The human casualties were counted quickly. 3 soldiers had minor injuries. 1 had a concussion from an impact. Not a single fatality, not even a serious injury beyond some bruising and 1 cracked rib. Zexthor found himself on the floor with Jake's boot pressing down on his chest. The human's weapon was pointed at his head. The mercenary captain had been in hundreds of fights. He had faced death before, but he had never felt fear quite like this. The human looking down at him had eyes that held no anger, no hatred, just a cold calculation that was somehow more terrifying than rage. "Here's what happens next," Jake said quietly. "You take your ship and leave. You go back to whoever hired you and tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them how 12 humans stopped 40 of you. Tell them how we could have killed every single one of you but chose not to. Tell them that next time we might not be so generous." Zexthor was released. His crew was allowed to return to their ship with their wounded. As the mercenary vessel pulled away from the station, the captain sat in his command chair staring at nothing. His second-in-command approached carefully. "Captain, should we report this as a failure?" Zexthor thought about the question. Failure seemed like too small a word. "Report it however you want. Just make sure everyone knows humans are not like other species. They evolved on a world we would consider a death trap. Every day of their existence, their planet tried to kill them. They learned to fight back. They learned to win. We just attacked the survivors of millions of years of warfare against nature itself." The news spread through mercenary channels within hours. By the next day, every major mercenary organization in 3 sectors knew about the station. The details varied with each telling, growing more elaborate. But the core truth remained the same. Humanity's soldiers were not like other fighters. They were something new in the galaxy, something dangerous, something to be feared. Jake Morrison watched the mercenary ship disappear into the darkness of space. He turned to his team, who were already beginning repairs to the station. "Good work, everyone. Let's hope they learned their lesson." But Jake knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to face soldiers from a death world, and that lesson would change everything. 3 months passed since the station incident. In that short time, something changed across the galaxy. Mercenary contracts that involved human targets started disappearing. Organizations that had built reputations on taking any job for the right price suddenly had exceptions in their terms. No human military installations, no human colonies, no human personnel of any kind. Commander Nicole Webb sat in her office at Earth Defense Force headquarters, reading through intelligence reports. At 42 years old, she commanded one of humanity's most elite special operations units. She had spent 20 years learning how to fight, how to lead, and how to navigate the complicated politics of galactic military operations. Right now, those reports were telling her something interesting. "They're calling us demons," Captain Ryan Clark said, walking into her office without knocking. He dropped a datapad on her desk. "The Vrelki have a new word in their language. It translates roughly to the unkillable ones. That's us." Nicole picked up the pad and scrolled through the translations. "Mercenary communications, intercepted and decoded by intelligence services." The messages painted a picture of fear spreading through the underworld of galactic society. Humans who could survive impossible damage, soldiers who never retreated, warriors who seemed to feel no pain. "Most of this is exaggerated," she said, though she knew some of it was true. "Doesn't matter," Ryan replied. He was 50 years old, a veteran of more classified missions than anyone cared to count. Fear doesn't care about accuracy. It cares about perception. And right now, the perception is that fighting humans is suicide. Lieutenant Amy Foster entered the office, carrying her own stack of reports. She was the unit's intelligence specialist, 35 years old, and she had an almost supernatural ability to predict enemy movements. "We have a bigger problem. The Azurian Empire just tripled their border defenses facing our space. The Tellurian Dominion is proposing restrictions on human military movements in neutral zones. Our allies are getting nervous." Nicole stood and walked to the window. Below, the training ground stretched out for miles. Thousands of soldiers ran through exercises designed to prepare them for combat in alien environments. They ran through simulated low gravity. They practiced fighting in toxic atmospheres. They trained for scenarios that would give nightmares to most species. "We didn't ask for this," Nicole said quietly. "We didn't choose to be from Earth." Ryan joined her at the window. "No, but that's what we are. We're from a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. Our ancestors survived ice ages that would have wiped out most species. They survived predators that hunted them. They survived diseases that should have ended the species. And they did more than survive. They thrived. They conquered the planet that was trying to destroy them. And now the galaxy is afraid of us because of it," Amy added. Nicole turned back to face them. "Then we need to control that fear. We need to show them we're not monsters. We're professionals. We follow rules of engagement. We have ethics and laws and chains of command. The mercenaries don't care about that, Ryan said. They care about survival. And right now their survival instinct is telling them to stay far away from humans. Nicole sat back down at her desk and pulled up a holographic display. It showed mercenary fleet movements over the past 90 days. The pattern was clear. Ships that used to operate near human space had moved away. Organizations that used to take contracts in human-controlled sectors had relocated to the other side of the galaxy. Fear is a tool, she said, studying the display. Like any tool, we can use it correctly or we can misuse it. If we use it right, it keeps our people safe. It prevents conflicts before they start. But if we let it grow out of control, it turns us into the enemy. It makes the galaxy see us as the threat. Amy sat down across from her. So what do? We document everything, Nicole said. Every operation from now on includes full records that get shared with allied intelligence services. We invite observers to training exercises. We open channels of communication. We show them that yes, we're dangerous, but we're dangerous in a controlled way. We're not random violence. We're precision force applied with discipline. And if the mercenaries test us again? Ryan asked. Nicole's expression hardened. Then we remind them why the fear exists in the first place. We don't go looking for fights. But when fights come to us, we end them quickly and completely. We make the cost of attacking humans so high that even thinking about it becomes a bad business decision. Over the next few weeks, Nicole's plan went into action. Human military observers attended conferences with allied species. Training videos were shared, showing not just the combat capabilities of human soldiers, but the discipline and control they exercised. Medical reports were released, explaining the biological reasons why humans were more durable than most species, turning superstition into science. But not everyone was interested in understanding. Some mercenary groups saw the situation differently. They saw opportunity. They believed the stories were exaggerated. They thought that proving humans could be beaten would bring prestige and lucrative contracts. The Craven Syndicate was one such group. They had operated for 30 years across a dozen sectors. They had a reputation for succeeding where others failed. Their leader, a cyborg named Vex, looked at the human situation and saw a challenge rather than a warning. The humans are soldiers, he told his captains in a private meeting. Soldiers can be beaten. They bleed, they die. The only question is finding the right approach. His intelligence officer, a cautious being named Crix, disagreed. The reports are consistent. Every engagement has gone badly for those who attacked humans. The casualty rates are extreme. Vex waved this away. Those were small operations run by second-rate mercenaries. We're neither small nor second-rate. Find me a target, something valuable enough to make this worth our while. We're going to prove that humans can be beaten, and we're going to get paid well for doing it. Back on Earth, Nicole received word of the Craven Syndicate's interest in human targets. She read the report with a mixture of resignation and grim satisfaction. Someone was always going to test them. It might as well be now, under circumstances where they could control the response. They're going after the research station on Narration 4, Amy reported. Small facility, minimal defenses. They probably think it's an easy target. Nicole pulled up the station details. 30 civilian scientists studying xenobiology in one of the harshest environments in human-controlled space, protected by a single special operations team. 8 soldiers against what intelligence suggested would be over 200 mercenaries. Who's the team leader? Nicole asked. Captain Derek Stone, good record. His team has worked together for 2 years. They know what they're doing. Nicole thought for a moment, then made her decision. Send them a warning about the incoming threat. Give them full tactical support. But tell Derek the decision is his. If he wants to evacuate, we pull everyone out. If he wants to fight, we back him completely. Ryan looked at her with surprise. 8 against 200? That's not a fight. That's a massacre. Yes, Nicole agreed. The question is, massacre of which side? She looked at the environmental data for Narration 4. Surface temperature averaged minus 150 degrees Celsius. Toxic atmosphere. Low gravity. That's a death world by most species standards. For humans from Earth, it's just another Tuesday. The mercenaries are about to learn a very expensive lesson about choosing your battleground. Captain Derek Stone stood outside the research station on Narration 4, watching the sunrise. The sun was a distant point of light, providing almost no heat. The ice field stretched out in every direction. broken only by jagged mountains and deep crevasses. The temperature was 147 degrees below 0 Celsius. The wind carried methane and nitrogen that would kill an unprotected human in seconds. Derek loved it here. He had grown up in Alaska, where winters could drop to -60. He had trained in mountains where the cold could kill you faster than bullets. This place reminded him of home, just colder and with a worse atmosphere. His environmental suit kept him comfortable, but he knew he could survive for hours out here even without it. Not comfortably, but he would survive. That was the difference between humans and most other species. Lieutenant Sam Porter joined him outside. Orbital sensors confirmed 3 mercenary ships inbound. ETA 12 hours. Estimated force strength 200+ fighters. 200, Derek repeated, his breath fogging inside his helmet. They really want to make a statement. Command says we can evacuate if we want. Get the scientists out, leave the facility. Derek considered this. It was the safe option, the smart option by most military standards. But it was also the option that would confirm mercenary suspicions that humans could be beaten with enough force. It would undo months of reputation building. It would make every human installation a potential target. Get the team together, Derek said. We're staying. 30 minutes later, his 8-person team gathered in the station's command center. They were an experienced unit. Lieutenant Sam Porter had been with Derek for 3 years. Sergeants Kate Simmons and Luis Martinez were both veterans of hostile environment operations. Corporals Ben Hughes and Tara Lynch specialized in demolitions. Specialists Chris Dixon and Megan Price handled communications and medical respectively. We have 12 hours before they arrive, Derek said, pulling up a tactical map of the surrounding area. That gives us time to prepare. We're not defending this station. We're turning this entire ice field into a killing ground. Kate studied the terrain map. The ice is unstable in several areas. We could plant charges, create controlled collapses. Do it, Derek confirmed. Luis, you work with her. I want the primary approach routes rigged to drop anyone who uses them into crevasses. Luis grinned. The cold will do half our work for us. Most species can't handle these temperatures for long, even with environmental suits. That's what we're counting on, Derek agreed. Ben, Tara, I want surprises. Make this place a nightmare to navigate. Use the environment. The low gravity means things fall differently here. Avalanches, ice walls, anything that makes them question their footing. Chris looked up from his communications console. What about the scientists? Secure them in the deep shelter. Full life support, enough supplies for a week. They stay there no matter what happens up here. Megan checked her medical supplies. Casualties? Plan for 0 on our side. The mercenaries won't be so lucky, Derek said. Remember, we're not trying to kill them all. We're trying to make them regret every decision that led them here. We want survivors to spread the word. The team split up and went to work. Kate and Luis spent the next 8 hours mapping the ice fields, finding weak points, planting explosives with precision. They placed charges deep enough that they wouldn't be detected by standard scans, but could be triggered remotely to create chaos when needed. Ben and Tara worked on the approaches to the station. They built hidden obstacles, created false paths that led to dead ends or dangerous terrain. They used the ice itself as a material, shaping it with thermal tools to create structures that looked natural but were carefully designed death traps. Chris set up a communications web that would let the team coordinate, even if their standard channels were jammed. He also hacked into the mercenary frequencies, giving them the ability to listen to enemy communications. Megan prepared medical stations at strategic points around the battlefield. She knew her team. They would take risks, push their limits. When they got hurt, she needed to be ready to patch them up and get them back in the fight. Derek and Sam planned the overall strategy. They studied the mercenary approach vectors, predicted how the enemy would deploy, identified weaknesses in the mercenary formation. They're expecting resistance at the station, Sam said. They'll probably send scouts first, then follow with main force. So we let them think they're right, Derek replied. We give them a station to focus on. Then we hit them from everywhere else. The mercenary fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 3 ships descended through the thin atmosphere, landing on the ice fields 2 kilometers from the station. Vex, the Kraven Syndicate leader, watched the landing through his ship's sensors. Everything looked exactly as intelligence had predicted. A small research station, minimal defenses, hostile environment. Scouts forward, Vex ordered. Clear the approach, identify any defensive positions. 20 mercenaries moved out, spreading across the ice field. They were professionals, moving with caution, weapons ready. They made it 500 meters before the ice beneath them exploded. Kate had timed the charges perfectly. The explosion didn't kill the scouts, but it dropped half of them into a crevasse 30 meters deep. The others scrambled for footing as the ground shifted beneath them. Their environmental suits kept them alive, but the cold was already draining their power reserves faster than expected. Contact, one scout reported. Terrain unstable. Multiple casualties, Vex frowned. Bad luck, but not unexpected in this environment. Main force advance. Stay alert for unstable ground. 150 mercenaries moved out in formation. They were heavily armed, wearing the best combat armor credits could buy. They represented 5 different species, all experienced fighters. They advanced in good order, covering each other, following proper tactical doctrine. Then the humans hit them. Derek's team attacked from 4 directions at once. Kate and Luis emerged from concealed positions in ice caves, their weapons firing with disciplined accuracy. The low gravity let them move in ways that seemed impossible, jumping between cover points using the terrain like they were born to it. Ben and Tara triggered the demolition charges. Ice walls collapsed. Avalanches roared down from the mountains. The carefully planned mercenary formation broke apart as soldiers scrambled to avoid being buried. Chris and Megan flanked from the sides, using the chaos to pick off isolated targets. They moved fast, hit hard, then disappeared before the mercenaries could respond. Sam led a direct assault down the center, his heavy weapon tearing through enemy formations. He moved like a ghost, using every piece of cover, every shadow, every opportunity the environment provided. And Derek coordinated it all, calling targets, adjusting tactics, keeping his team one step ahead of the enemy response. The battle lasted 3 hours, not because the humans needed that long to win, but because they were deliberately pacing themselves. They wanted the mercenaries to understand exactly how outmatched they were. Every time the enemy tried to regroup, the humans broke them apart. Every time they tried to retreat, they found their escape routes cut off. The cold was the mercenaries' real enemy. Their suits could handle the temperature, but the constant exposure drained power cells at an alarming rate. Humans with better insulation and more efficient power management could operate for days in these conditions. The mercenaries were struggling after 3 hours. Vex watched his carefully planned assault fall apart. His forces were scattered across the ice field. Casualties were mounting, and he still hadn't seen the station's main defenses. He'd been fighting 8 humans who were using the environment like a weapon. Retreat, he finally ordered. All units fall back to the ships, but retreating was harder than advancing. The paths they'd used were now blocked by ice or rigged with traps. The humans harassed them every step of the way, not letting them rest, not giving them time to reorganize. By the time the mercenary ships lifted off, 70 fighters were dead or too injured to continue. Another 50 were suffering from cold exposure and equipment failure. The rest were demoralized, beaten, terrified. Derek's team casualties were minimal. Chris had a sprained ankle. Megan had minor frostbite on 2 fingers. Everyone else had bruises and exhaustion, but nothing serious. The team gathered outside the station, watching the mercenary ships disappear into orbit. "Think they learned?" Sam asked. Derek smiled. "If they didn't, the next group will." The Galactic Council chamber was built to impress. It floated in orbit around a neutral planet, a massive structure that could hold representatives from 40 different species comfortably. The architecture was designed to make everyone feel small and humble before the collective power of galactic civilization. Colonel Patricia Hayes walked into that chamber and felt nothing but annoyance at the wasted space. She was 55 years old, a veteran of 3 decades in special operations. She had fought on 4 continents back on Earth before humanity joined the galactic community. She had led missions on a dozen alien worlds since then. She had been shot, stabbed, blown up, and frozen. She had lost friends and soldiers under her command. She had saved more lives than she could count. Now she was here to explain to a room full of nervous aliens why humans were good at killing things. The council representatives took their positions. The Azurian ambassador floated in a specialized tank, a jellyfish-like being that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The Vrelki representative stood on powerful legs, his mandibles clicking nervously. The Talarian delegate was a crystalline form that refracted light in beautiful patterns. There were dozens of others, each representing their species' interests. They were all afraid. Colonel Hayes, the council chairman, began. He was a Nexian, a species that resembled an upright lizard with too many eyes. We have called this emergency session to discuss the human military, specifically your Special Operations Forces. There have been numerous incidents where we defended ourselves, Patricia replied calmly. Incidents where we protected our people and our allies. Yes, there have been many such incidents. The Vrelki representative spoke up, his voice translated by the chamber systems. You describe defense. We see aggression. Your soldiers seem to seek combat. Patricia pulled up a holographic display. Let me show you something. This is Earth, my homeworld. The planet appeared above the center of the chamber, rotating slowly. Beautiful, isn't it? Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. Looks peaceful. She changed the display to show weather patterns. These are hurricanes, storms that generate winds over 300 kilometers per hour. They can destroy entire cities. They occur regularly. Another change. These are earthquakes. The ground itself splits open, swallowing buildings. This is a volcanic eruption. It blocked out the sun for months, causing global cooling that killed millions. The council watched in silence as the display showed disaster after disaster. Floods, droughts, ice ages, heat waves, tsunamis, tornadoes. This is just the weather, Patricia continued. Now let me show you the wildlife. The display changed to show various Earth predators. These are animals that hunted humans for food. This is a bear. It weighs 800 kilograms and can run 40 kilometers per hour. This is a big cat we call a lion. Pack hunter, incredibly strong. This is a crocodile. It can stay underwater for hours waiting for prey. She paused, letting the images sink in. My ancestors survived all of this. No natural armor. No claws or fangs, no venom. Just intelligence, adaptability, and the refusal to give up. They learned to use tools. They learned to work together. They learned to turn a planet that was trying to kill them into a home. The Azurian ambassador pulsed with color. This explains your durability. It does not explain your aggression. Patricia smiled without humor. Doesn't it? Imagine growing up in an environment where everything is a threat, where the weather can kill you, where animals hunt you, where even the plants can be poisonous. You learn to see threats quickly. You learn to respond to danger immediately. You learn that hesitation means death. She pulled up biological data. The average human can survive 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. We can operate in temperatures from near freezing to over 40 degrees Celsius without special equipment. Our bones can withstand impacts that would shatter most species. We heal from injuries that would be fatal to others. But you evolved these traits naturally, a Talarian counselor said. What about your military training? Our military training takes natural capability and refines it, Patricia replied. We select individuals who show exceptional physical ability, mental resilience, and tactical intelligence. Then we put them through training that simulates the worst conditions we can imagine, not just on Earth, but on every hostile world we've encountered. She showed footage of Special Forces training, soldiers running through obstacle courses in full gear, teams practicing urban combat in realistic environments, operators conducting high-altitude parachute jumps, underwater demolitions, extreme weather survival. This is basic training, she said. It lasts months. Many candidates fail. Those who succeed move on to specialized training that can last years. By the time someone becomes a special operations soldier, they've been tested in ways most species can't imagine. The Nexian chairman leaned forward. You are describing weapons, not people. Patricia's expression hardened. We are describing people. Every single operator in human special forces is a volunteer. They choose this life. They follow strict rules of engagement. They operate under military law. They have commanders, oversight, ethical guidelines. She pulled up the Naraxis 4 footage. You've all seen this battle. 8 humans against 200 mercenaries. Everyone focuses on the fact that we won. I want you to focus on something else. Watch carefully. The footage played showing the 3-hour battle. Patricia froze it at key moments. Here, my soldier has a clean shot at an enemy who's disabled. He doesn't take it. Here, we could collapse this entire section and kill 50 mercenaries. We create a path for them to escape instead. Here, we capture wounded enemies and provide medical treatment. She turned to face the council directly. My operators could have killed every single mercenary in that battle. They chose not to. The objective was to protect the research station and demonstrate our capability. Both were achieved with minimal casualties. That's not aggression. That's restraint. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, the Azurian ambassador spoke. If your forces are this capable and if they show this restraint, why should we fear them? Because fear is natural when you encounter something more dangerous than yourself, Patricia replied. Your species evolved in safe environments. Your worlds were gentle compared to Earth. You never needed to become apex predators because your ecosystems didn't push you that hard. There's no shame in that, but it means you're looking at humans through a lens that doesn't quite fit. She closed the display and stood at the center of the chamber. We're not monsters. We're not seeking conquest. We're not even particularly warlike by our own historical standards. We're just survivors from a world that taught us hard lessons. Those lessons made us effective soldiers. But they also taught us the value of cooperation, the importance of rules, the necessity of restraint. The Tellarian counselor's crystalline form shifted color. What do you propose? Understanding, Patricia said. Open communication between our militaries. Joint training exercises where we can learn from each other. Cultural exchange programs so you can see that we're people, not weapons. Give us a chance to prove that being dangerous doesn't mean being evil. The Vrelki representative spoke again. And if mercenaries continue to test you? Patricia's voice went cold. Then they'll learn the same lesson the others learned. We don't start fights, but we end them decisively. That's not a threat. It's a promise. Attack our people, attack our allies, and you'll discover exactly why the reputation exists. The council debated for 6 hours after Patricia left. The conversation was intense, with some representatives arguing for restrictions on human military forces, and others pointing out that humans had only ever acted defensively. In the end, a compromise was reached. Human special forces would be recognized as a legitimate military asset, subject to the same interstellar laws as any other force. But the Council also acknowledged that human capabilities exceeded standard parameters. They opened channels for cooperation and understanding. They created a framework for joint operations and cultural exchange. It wasn't perfect. Fear didn't disappear overnight, but it was a start. Patricia received the Council's decision while sitting in a cafe on Earth drinking coffee and watching the sunset. She read through the documents on her datapad, nodding at certain sections, frowning at others. Well? Asked Colonel Marcus Webb, her longtime friend and fellow Special Operations Commander. They're scared of us, but they're willing to work with us. That's more than I expected. Marcus sipped his own coffee. Think the mercenaries will get the message? Patricia looked out at the sunset, thinking about all the battles she'd fought, all the soldiers she'd trained, all the missions that had brought humanity to this point. Some will, some won't. The ones who don't will learn the hard way. But either way, the galaxy is starting to understand. We're not the monsters in their nightmares. We're just very, very good at surviving, and that's not going to change. 1 year after the council session, Sergeant Kate Simmons stood on the bridge of the Alliance frigate Horizon's Edge, looking at a tactical display that showed a pirate station orbiting a dead moon. Next to her stood Lieutenant Zixal, an Azurian tactical specialist whose bioluminescent patterns shifted with concentration. 20 hostages inside, Zixal said, his translated voice carrying concern. Mixed species. 3 humans, 5 Azurians, 12 others. The pirates are demanding ransom. Kate studied the station's layout. It was a converted mining facility, all narrow corridors and cramped spaces, perfect for close-quarters combat. Terrible for a frontal assault. What are we working with? 4 human operators, including yourself. 20 Azurian specialists. The pirates number approximately 40. Kate nodded slowly. A year ago, this would have been a human-only operation. Command would have sent in a team of Deathworlders to kick down doors and take names. But things had changed. The galaxy was learning to work together, combining strengths instead of competing. Okay, Kate said. Here's how we do this. Your people are experts at electronic systems, right? Zixal's patterns brightened with pride. We interface with technology naturally. What your species does with tools and training, we do by instinct. Perfect. You handle their security systems, weapons, communications. Shut them down from the inside. My team handles the physical breach and hostage extraction. Combined approach. She pulled up a detailed map of the station. We go in here through their waste recycling system. It's shielded so they won't detect the entry. Your people split into 2 teams. Team 1 takes their power grid offline. Team 2 locks down their weapon systems. My team moves through the corridors, secures the hostages, neutralizes the pirates. Zixal studied the plan. This requires precise timing. If the power goes down too early, they'll know we're coming. Too late, and your team is exposed. That's why we practice, Kate replied. We've got 6 hours before their ransom deadline. Let's use it. The combined human and Azurian team spent the next 5 hours running through the plan repeatedly. The Azurians learned how humans moved through confined spaces, how they communicated with hand signals, how they approached corners and cleared rooms. The humans learned how Azurians interfaced with technology, how their natural electrical fields could manipulate systems, how they coordinated through bioluminescent signals. Private Dan Cooper, one of Kate's team, worked with an Azurian named Velix on breaching techniques. You can sense the power flowing through circuits? Dan asked, fascinated. In the same way you can feel heat or cold, Velix replied. It's natural to us, but we lack your physical strength. We couldn't force this door open if we needed to. And I can't shut down a security system by touching it, Dan said. Guess that's why we work together. Corporal Nina Blake practiced room clearing with 2 Azurian specialists. The aliens moved differently than humans, flowing rather than stepping. But the principles were the same. Clear the corners. Check for threats. Secure the space. Move to the next. You move very directly, one Azurian observed. No hesitation. Hesitation gets you killed, Nina replied. We train until the movements are automatic. Think about it too much and you're too slow. We think very fast, the Azurian said. But we understand. Different species, different advantages. When the mission launched, everything went exactly as planned. The team inserted through the waste system, moving quietly through dark corridors. The Azurians reached the power control center and waited for Kate's signal. Kate's team positioned outside the hostage-holding area. Through the walls they could hear voices. Pirates arguing about what to do. Hostages crying or trying to stay quiet. Standard hostage situation, except this time the rescuers were a mixed team of species working together. Power in 3, 2, 1, Kate whispered into her comm. The station went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in, but the weapon systems were offline. The door locks were disabled. The pirates' communications were jammed. The Azurians had done their job perfectly. Kate's team breached simultaneously from 3 entry points. They moved through the station like water, flowing around obstacles, clearing rooms with practiced efficiency. The pirates, caught off guard and suddenly blind and deaf to each other, barely managed to resist. The entire operation took 8 minutes from power shutdown to hostages secured. No casualties among the rescuers or hostages. The pirates were captured, disarmed and restrained for transport to Alliance authorities. Standing in the now secured station, Kate watched her team work alongside the Azurians. Dan was helping Velix restore power to life support systems. Nina was coordinating with Azurian medics to check the hostages for injuries. Different species, different capabilities, working together toward a common goal. That was efficient, Zixal said, approaching Kate. His patterns showed satisfaction. Your reputation is deserved. But I think our contribution was also valuable. Kate smiled. More than valuable, essential. We couldn't have done it without your people shutting down their systems. And honestly, I think you all just became a lot scarier to pirates. They expected humans. They weren't ready for a mixed team that combined our strengths. Back on Earth, Commander Nicole Webb reviewed the mission report with satisfaction. Her office walls were covered with photos now, showing joint operations between human and alien forces. Commendations from allied species. Letters from soldiers who had trained together and learned from each other. A message came through from Galactic Alliance Command. They were requesting human operators for another joint mission, this time with Talarian Crystal Warriors and Vrelki heavy assault troops. Not because they feared humans, but because they had learned to value what humanity brought to combined operations. Captain Ryan Clark knocked and entered without waiting. The Craven Syndicate just posted new contract guidelines. They're explicitly excluding any operations against Alliance military assets. Vex himself sent a message to mercenary channels saying attacking humans is bad business. Vex was at Neuraxis 4, Nicole said. He learned the hard way. Yeah, but he's not alone. Look at this. Ryan pulled up statistics showing mercenary activity over the past year. Attacks on human installations had dropped to zero, but more interesting, several mercenary groups had actually applied to work as security contractors for human corporations. They're not just avoiding us. Some of them want to work with us. Nicole leaned back in her chair. Fear turned into respect. Respect turning into partnership. That's the goal, right? Some people are still scared, Ryan admitted. The Azurian border defenses are still there. The Talarians still watch us carefully, but it's different now. They're scared of our capability, not our intentions. They know we follow rules. They know we can be trusted. Lieutenant Amy Foster entered with her usual stack of reports. Speaking of trust, we just got invited to participate in the Galactic Security Summit. They want human special operations to present on combined arms tactics. We're being asked to teach, not just to fight. Nicole stood and walked to the window. Below, the training ground showed something that would have been impossible a year ago. Human soldiers training alongside Azurian specialists and Talarian warriors. They were learning each other's languages, understanding each other's tactics, building relationships that went beyond simple military cooperation. You know what the real victory is? Nicole said, watching the mixed units work together. It's not that we scared the mercenaries. It's that we proved being dangerous doesn't mean being evil. We showed the galaxy that Deathworlders can be protectors, not just predators. Ryan joined her at the window. The Special Forces community has a new saying. Heard it from a Vrelki officer last week. He said humans taught the galaxy that strength without discipline is just violence, but strength with discipline is protection. Who said that? Nicole asked. Captain Zexthor, the mercenary from the first station fight. He retired from mercenary work and joined the Vrelki military. Now he trains their soldiers in what he calls Deathworlder principles, not trying to make them into humans, but teaching them about discipline, adaptation, and controlled aggression. Nicole smiled. From enemy to teacher, that's the best kind of conversion. Over the next months, the pattern continued. Human Special Forces operators served as advisors to allied militaries. Joint task forces became common, mixing human soldiers with alien specialists. Training programs incorporated lessons from Earth's harsh environment, teaching other species about endurance, adaptation, and mental resilience. The mercenary underworld still whispered stories about humans, but the stories had changed. They were no longer tales of unstoppable monsters. They were warnings about professionalism, capability, and the danger of underestimating trained soldiers who happened to be from a death world. Sergeant Kate Simmons, now leading integrated teams regularly, put it best during a speech to a graduating class of mixed-species special operations candidates. A year ago, the galaxy was afraid of us because we were different. We were tougher, stronger, more resilient than most species. That difference made us scary. But we proved that difference could be valuable. We showed that Deathworlders aren't monsters. We're just survivors who learned hard lessons, and now we're teaching those lessons to anyone willing to learn. The applause that followed came from human and alien. 2 years had passed since the first mercenary attack on the mining station. The galaxy looked fundamentally different now. Human special forces were no longer isolated warriors operating alone. They were integrated into a galactic military structure that valued their unique capabilities while respecting their discipline and ethics. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, who had faced down Zexthor in that first confrontation, now commanded a training facility on a neutral world. His students came from 17 different species, all learning what humans called Deathworlder tactics. Not trying to become human, but understanding the principles that made humans effective. Pain is information, Jake told a class of mixed recruits. On Earth, we learned this lesson early. Pain tells you something is wrong. It warns you of danger, but it doesn't have to stop you. Understanding the difference between pain that means injury and pain that just means discomfort, that's a Deathworlder skill. A young Vrelki recruit raised a claw. But our species is not built like yours. We cannot endure what you endure. You don't have to, Jake replied. You just have to push past what you thought were your limits. Every species has limits, but most species never test them because their worlds never forced them to. We're teaching you to find your actual limits, not the ones you assumed you had. He demonstrated with a simple exercise. A weighted pack that felt impossibly heavy at first, running with it until muscles burned and lungs ached, then resting, recovering, and doing it again, and again. And slowly, over weeks, what seemed impossible became difficult. What was difficult became manageable. That's the Deathworlder principle, Jake explained. Adaptation through challenge. Earth challenged us every day. We adapted or died. You won't face Earth's challenges, but you'll face your own. This training teaches you how to adapt. Across the galaxy, Captain Derek Stone was leading a joint operation with Tellurian Crystal Warriors. The mission was to clear an asteroid belt of pirate bases, a task that required precision, patience, and the ability to operate in zero gravity for extended periods. The Tellurians, who communicated through light refraction and could survive in hard vacuum for hours, were perfect for space operations, but they lacked the close-quarters combat experience that humans had developed. Derek's team provided that expertise. We moved through the asteroid like water, Derek briefed his combined team. The Tellurians take point. Their natural senses can detect life signs and power sources better than our equipment. Humans follow, providing security and handling any physical confrontations. We complement each other. Corporal Ben Hughes worked with a Tellurian named Crixtal on breaching techniques. The Crystal Warrior could survive in vacuum, but his crystalline structure made him vulnerable to kinetic impacts. Ben, with his human resilience and armor, could absorb impacts that would shatter Crixtal. You scout ahead, Ben suggested. Your senses are better. I follow close. If there's trouble, you pull back and I take point. We cover each other's weaknesses. Crixtal's crystalline form pulsed with agreement. Your species teaches cooperation naturally. On our world, we each worked alone because our senses made coordination unnecessary. You humans require teams to survive. This made you better at working together. The operation went flawlessly. The pirates, expecting conventional assaults, found themselves facing a mixed force that combined Tellurian reconnaissance with human combat capability. They surrendered within hours, recognizing they were outmatched by an enemy that used combined species tactics. Commander Nicole Webb, now promoted to general, oversaw the entire Galactic Special Operations program from Earth. Her office had expanded to fill an entire floor, with staff members from a dozen species working on coordination, training, and deployment of mixed units. We have a problem, Captain Ryan Clark said, entering with his usual directness. The good kind of problem, but still a problem. Nicole looked up from her reports. Explain. We have more requests for human advisors than we have humans to send. 23 allied militaries want training programs. 15 joint operations are scheduled for the next quarter. 8 new facilities need human staff. We're stretched thin. Nicole considered this. What about our allied species? Can they teach Deathworlder principles? Some can. The Vrelki who trained under us are starting their own programs. Zexthor's facility is producing solid results, but there's still demand specifically for human instructors. Because they want to learn from the source, Nicole said. They want to hear it from people who actually evolved on a death world. Ryan nodded. What do we do? Nicole stood and walked to the window. The view showed not just human soldiers training now, but representatives from dozens of species, all learning together. We train trainers. We create a program where our best instructors teach allied officers, who then return to their own militaries and spread the knowledge. We multiply our effectiveness. It was a solution that worked. Over the next year, human special operations graduates returned to their own militaries not as soldiers but as teachers. They adapted Deathworlder principles to their own species' capabilities, creating training programs that pushed limits without ignoring biological realities. The Azurians developed a program focused on mental resilience, using their natural telepathic abilities to help soldiers overcome psychological barriers. The Vrelki created heavy assault tactics that combined their physical strength with human principles of aggressive defense. The Tellurians designed zero-gravity combat protocols that mixed their natural space adaptation with human close-quarters expertise. Sergeant Kate Simmons found herself teaching at the Galactic Military Academy, a new institution created to train the next generation of mixed-species special operations units. Her students included beings who could barely comprehend Earth's harsh environment, but were eager to learn its lessons. My world has gentle weather, one student said, a floating gas being from a world with no solid surface. I cannot understand what cold feels like or hunger or the weight of gravity. How can I learn Deathworlder principles? Kate thought about this. You can't learn to be human. But you can learn what humans learned from being human. Persistence, adaptation, working as a team, pushing past assumed limits. Those aren't human traits. They're survival traits that humans developed because we had to. Your species can develop them too, just for different reasons. She pulled up a simulation. Your people float naturally, right? You don't have muscles in the way we do, but you have to fight atmospheric currents. You have to navigate in 3 dimensions constantly. That's your challenge, your version of gravity. We're going to build training that pushes you in your medium the way Earth pushed us in ours. The student's gaseous form rippled with understanding. You teach principles, not techniques. Exactly. The techniques vary by species. The principles are universal. The mercenary community had evolved as well. Organizations like the Kraven Syndicate still existed, but they operated differently now. Vex, the cyborg who had led the Neuraxis 4 attack, now ran a legitimate security corporation that employed mixed species teams using combined tactics. We learned that attacking humans was suicide, Vex told a gathering of security contractors. But we also learned that working like humans was profitable. Discipline, training, rules of engagement. These things make us more effective, not less. The clients trust us because they know we're professionals, not just thugs with guns. His corporation had contracts protecting trade routes, securing facilities, and providing consultation on security matters. They employed former mercenaries alongside military veterans from a dozen species. They trained using Deathworlder principles adapted to each species' capabilities. The humans didn't just beat us, Vex continued. They showed us a better way to operate. Some of you will hate them for that, but the smart ones will learn from it. Back on Earth, in a ceremony attended by representatives from 40 species, General Nicole Webb stood before a gathering of graduates from the first full integrated special operations program. The students had spent 2 years training together, learning each other's capabilities, building teams that transcended species boundaries. 2 years ago, the galaxy was afraid of human special forces, Nicole said. They saw us as dangerous anomalies, Deathworlders who didn't fit into normal military structures. They weren't wrong. We are dangerous. We are different. But we proved that different doesn't mean isolated. She gestured to the graduates. You represent the future. Mixed teams where humans provide close combat expertise and physical resilience, where Azurians handle electronic warfare and sensors, where Talarians excel in space operations, where Vrelki bring heavy assault capabilities. Every species contributing their strengths, covering each other's weaknesses. The ceremony continued with awards and recognitions. Human operators received commendations for teaching. Allied species soldiers were honored for innovation in applying Deathworlder principles to their own capabilities. The message was clear. The galaxy was stronger together. Lieutenant Jake Morrison, watching from the crowd, stood next to Zexthor, the former mercenary captain who had become a respected military trainer. Think you would have believed this 2 years ago? Jake asked. Zexthor's mandibles clicked in what had become his version of a laugh. 2 years ago, I thought humans were myths and propaganda. Now I